The Oval Office just has a particular power. And I certainly felt it. And it was just amazing to stand in that room. And I remember at the time thinking, I wish that I had something profound to say. J.D. Vance, Vice President of the U.S., has made a jaw-dropping announcement about his wife, Usha Vance. The news has taken the political world by storm, leaving everyone stunned. But what is the revelation that J.D. Vance has made about his wife? And how will this affect his political career? Join us as we uncover this huge announcement. When opposites find home in each other, they came from worlds apart, so different that it almost seemed like they were never meant to meet, but fate had other plans. J.D. Vance grew up in a life filled with hardship. His childhood was tough with chaos, addiction, and a lot of pain. He learned how to survive, but dreaming big always felt too far away. His world was unpredictable, and every step forward was a struggle. Usha Chilukuri, on the other hand, had a very different start. She was raised in a home full of structure, discipline, and support. Her parents gave her every chance to succeed. She was taught to dream big, and to chase those dreams with hard work and focus. Success wasn't a wish for her. It was part of her everyday life. When they both landed at Yale Law School, it wasn't love at first sight. J.D. felt out of place in such a fancy, polished world. Yale was everything he had never imagined for himself. Usha, however, had always seen herself there. For her, it was a dream come true, something she had worked for her entire life. At first glance, they had little in common, but slowly something special started to grow. They began to talk, not just quick chats, but long, deep conversations. They came from different worlds, but neither tried to change the other. Instead, they listened. J.D. opened up about his past with raw honesty. Usha responded with calm understanding, and quiet strength. They did not fall in love because they were alike. They fell in love because they were willing to learn from each other. J.D. saw in Usha someone who gave him peace, hope, and balance. Usha saw in J.D. someone with grit, heart, and a powerful story. He had fought for everything, and she admired that. Their love wasn't loud or flashy. It was steady, thoughtful, and full of care. It was built on deep respect and a shared belief that different beginnings did not mean they couldn't build a life together. Now, as a couple, they show the world what true partnership looks like. They are proof that love doesn't need to start with perfection. It only needs to people willing to grow together. J.D. and Usha's story is sweet, strong, and full of heart. But how much influence has Usha in J.D.'s life and future? How much has she sacrificed for her husband's success? Let's find out the quiet power behind the spotlight. J.D. Vance's rise to the national stage brought attention to voices often forgotten. He spoke for people from small towns, for families who struggled, and for communities left behind. But as his name grew, people started asking questions, not just about him, but about the woman always by his side. Usha Vance did not fit the picture some expected. With a top-tier education and a glowing legal career, she came from a world very different from the one J.D. often talked about to outsiders. Their marriage seemed unusual. How could a man who spoke so deeply about working-class struggles be married to someone from such a polished background? But those who looked closer saw something more real, something deeper. Usha wasn't just J.D.'s wife. She was his partner in every way. Her presence wasn't loud. She did not chase the spotlight. Instead, she stood firm, offering steady support and quiet wisdom. While J.D. spoke to the hearts of everyday Americans, Usha helped shape that message behind the scenes. She understood both the world of privilege she was raised in and the world J.D. had lived through. That balance gave her a special kind of strength. As J.D. stepped further into politics, Usha's role grew even more important. She helped him practice for debates, sharpened his speeches, and kept him grounded when things got tough. Her calm nature and sharp mind were always working. She did not sit on the sidelines. She stood right next to him, helping him push forward when J.D. took the stage for the 2024 vice presidential debate. People saw a confident, clear, and passionate speaker. But behind his strong words and calm delivery was Usha, guiding, encouraging, and believing in him every step of the way. Those close to the campaign knew his success was also her success. Still whispers circled. Was their love real or just a polished political image? Could two people from such different worlds truly understand each other? But through every question and every headline, Usha never wavered. She did not need to shout her truth. She simply kept showing up calm, loyal, and full of purpose. She let her actions speak. While others talked, she worked. And her love for JD never needed to be explained. It showed in every quiet moment and every steady hand. On January 20th, 2025, as JD Vance raised his right hand and took the oath of office, Usha stood beside him not just as a smiling wife, but as the woman who helped shape his journey. Their love wasn't built on flash. It was built on faith, respect, and a deep understanding of each other. But to better understand this journey, we have to go decades back to JD's early days. What hardship really shaped him? Let's dive into it, a journey through pain, love, and promise. JD Vance's life is not just about politics. It's a heartfelt story of struggle, love, hope, and second chances. It begins in the quiet town of Middletown, Ohio, where JD was born into a life filled with pain. His childhood was far from easy. His father left when he was just 6, and his mother battled addiction for years. Life felt like a storm that never calmed. One terrifying day, during a fight with his mom, JD felt so unsafe that he jumped out of a moving car. He would later say that moment changed everything. After that, the police took his mom away, and JD found himself scared and alone. But not for long. Help came from his grandmother, Mama, a strong, fearless woman who became the steady rock in JD's life. With her tough love and big heart, she gave him a safe place to grow. She taught him that his past did not have to decide his future. Her words and actions helped JD start believing in himself. As JD grew older, he joined the Marine Corps. The military gave him discipline, courage, and purpose. After serving in Iraq, he returned home and used the G-Bill to go to Ohio State University, where he worked hard and graduated with high honors. Then something he never imagined happened. He got into Yale Law School. Yale was exciting, but also scary. JD felt like he didn't belong. His classmates seemed confident and came from wealthy, successful families. JD still carried the weight of his past. But one day, a professor encouraged him to write his story. It wasn't easy, but putting his life into words became a way to heal. That story turned into the best-selling book, Hillbilly Elegy, which touched hearts across the country. At Yale, JD met Usha Curry. She was smart, kind, and came from a very different world. JD sometimes doubted if he was good enough for her, but Usha saw the real JD, the one who had fought to get where he was. Their love grew slowly and honestly, built on understanding and trust. With Usha by his side, JD kept moving forward. In 2022, he ran for the U.S. Senate and won. He brought something new to Washington: real-life experience. He understood what it was like to struggle, to feel forgotten, and to hope for something better. Although he had once criticized Donald Trump, JD later saw why so many people supported him, and Trump chose JD as his running mate. That year's vice presidential debate was a big moment. JD stood strong, speaking not from a script but from the heart. People listened. They saw someone who had lived through pain, yet never gave up. Then came January 2nd, 2025. JD Vance became the 50th Vice President of the United States. Usha stood beside him, proud and smiling. She had stepped away from her career to support JD's journey. Their 3 children, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabel, watched history being made by their dad. In the crowd that day was JD's mother, sober for 10 years and full of pride. Mama couldn't be there, but her spirit was. She had raised a boy who believed he could do more. And he did, and maybe that's what makes J.D. Vance's journey so powerful. It shows that love, hard work, and hope can carry us far. His story is still being written, but what's already been written is nothing short of sweet and inspiring. Hillbilly Elegy in 2016. A quiet but powerful book found its way onto shelves and into hearts across the country. It was called Hillbilly Elegy, and it was written by J.D. Vance, a man who had lived through hardship and found the strength to rise above it. The book didn't just tell his story, it opened a window into a world many people had never truly seen. J.D. grew up in Middletown, Ohio, in a town hit hard by job losses and broken dreams. His family, like many others in the Appalachian region, faced tough times. Money was tight, addiction was common, and hope felt far away. J.D.'s childhood was full of chaos, but it was also full of love. His grandparents, especially his fierce, no-nonsense mama, helped him find stability. They believed in him even when life didn't seem fair. In Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. shares memories that are both painful and honest. He writes about his mother's struggles with addiction, the constant moves, and the confusion of being a child, trying to make sense of a messy world. But he also writes about moments of kindness, lessons learned at the dinner table, and the deep pride his family carried. Despite their struggles, the story is not just about J.D. It's about a whole community that often feels forgotten. Families working hard just to survive, dealing with problems that go beyond money. He talks about how poverty can crush dreams, and how feeling left behind can lead to anger and sadness, but he also shows that change is possible. With the help of his grandparents, the discipline he gained in the Marines, and the support he found in education, J.D. made it all the way to Yale Law School. When the book came out during a heated election season, it got people talking. Suddenly, the world wanted to know more about the folks J.D. grew up with, the ones who didn't always get media attention, but whose lives mattered deeply. Readers from all walks of life connected with his story. Some praised it for its honesty and raw emotion. Others felt it didn't dig deep enough into the reasons behind the problems. One thing was clear: Hillbilly Elegy had started an important conversation. The book helped people understand that behind every news headline about job loss or addiction, there are real families, real pain, and real dreams. J.D. didn't pretend to have all the answers. Instead, he offered his life as an example of both struggle and hope. Hillbilly Elegy remains more than just a best-selling memoir. It's a love letter to a community that shaped a young boy and helped him become the man he is today. J.D. and his wife have proved that being from different worlds doesn't define them, yet there are still troubles lingering around. What was this wave of issues? How deep does it flow? Let's find out. The Vance family's contradicting act. J.D. Vance has become a familiar name in American politics, known for sticking to his beliefs. He rarely changes his views, even when it's unpopular. This strong sense of conviction has earned him the loyalty of many supporters. He speaks out often against progressive ideas, especially those around diversity, equity, and inclusion, known as DEI, and global support for LGBTQ+ rights. In his eyes, these programs challenge the traditional American values he holds dear. In Washington, J.D. puts these beliefs into action. He's been firm in opposing policies that he feels don't match the values of working-class families. In one powerful memo, he asked ambassador nominees how they would promote LGBTQ+ rights in deeply religious countries. J.D. argued that the U.S. should show more respect for other cultures, especially those based on faiths like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Hinduism. As summer 2024 arrived, and he prepared to join Donald Trump's campaign as the vice presidential pick, J.D. introduced a bill to remove DEI programs from federal agencies. He felt these efforts caused more division than unity and did not belong in the future he envisioned for America. His message was loud and clear. He wanted to push back against what he and his supporters saw as too much influence from the left. But while JD's public message was strong, things at home were more complex. His wife Usha Vance had built a respected career as a corporate lawyer at a firm called Munger, Tolles and Olson. This law firm had a very different outlook. It actively supported DEI, promoted progressive values, and was praised for its inclusion efforts. In fact, one major publication even called the firm radically progressive. This contrast caught attention. On one hand, J.D. was campaigning against the very values Usha's workplace stood for. To some it looked like a contradiction. How could someone fight against DEI while being married to someone whose career was shaped in a DEI-friendly environment? But love, as we know, is rarely simple. JD and Usha come from very different worlds. JD grew up facing hardship and instability, while Usha came from a world of structure, discipline, and high achievement. Somehow, instead of letting those differences pull them apart, they made them work. Maybe it's their shared respect for each other that allows them to walk this line so gracefully. At first glance, their relationship may seem full of contradictions, but perhaps that's what makes it so. Real life isn't always black and white, and neither are relationships. While JD holds tight to his political beliefs at home, he shares a life with someone who may see things differently, and that doesn't seem to shake the love they've built. Now, as JD Vance serves as vice president, these questions haven't gone away. But maybe the real story isn't about political contradictions. Maybe it's about how two people from two completely different paths can build a life filled with respect, love, and understanding. In a world where people are quick to judge, JD and Usha's marriage quietly shows that love doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. A love that stands above politics. Politics can be tough. It's a world full of fast moves, loud arguments, and shifting friendships. People often forget about love and family when chasing power. But for JD Vance, one thing never changed: his deep love for his wife Usha. Their story isn't a perfect fairy tale, but that's what makes it real. It's built on quiet strength, shared sacrifices. Usha isn't just the wife of a politician. She's smart, accomplished, and had big dreams long before JD became a national figure. When JD moved from being a best-selling author to stepping into the political spotlight, Usha was there, calm, strong, and always supportive. Being married to someone in politics isn't easy. There's pressure all the time. Still, behind the scenes, Usha carried so much. She managed their family, faced public attention, and even put some of her goals on hold to be there for JD, and JD never let her feel forgotten. He often said, both in private and in public, that Usha wasn't just by his side. She was the reason he could stand at all. When people began whispering about their marriage, JD did not hide. He did not fight back with cold facts or fancy speeches. Instead, he spoke from the heart. He said clearly that no matter what happened in politics, no matter the debates, the decisions, or the titles, Usha would always come first. And he meant it. His actions proved his words were true. He did not just say she mattered. He showed it every day. While others in politics sometimes seemed distant or focused only on power, JD reminded everyone that real love still exists. Some wondered if that love could survive the pressure of Washington. But many saw something different, something hopeful for JD. It was never about impressing the crowd. It was about Usha. He wanted her to know, without a doubt, that she was the most important part of his life. His words weren't for the cameras. They were for her, full of love, honesty, and quiet strength. Even as the media kept talking and people shared their opinions, JD did not change. He stood firm. He kept showing love, respect, and loyalty to Usha. To him, she wasn't just someone to walk beside him at events. She was his partner, his anchor, and the heart behind all his success. In a world where many people lose themselves, chasing power, J.D. Vance chose something different. He chose love, and in doing so, he reminded us all that, even in the middle of chaos, true love can shine bright. His bond with Usha wasn't just about romance, it was about standing together, lifting each other up, and always having each other's back. And that's what makes their story so sweet. The inauguration everyone remembered. In January 2nd, 2025, all eyes were on Washington, D.C. once again. Crowds filled the streets. Flags waved in the wind, music echoed through the air. There was excitement, celebration, and a feeling that something big was happening. And it was Donald Trump had returned to the White House for a second time, making history with a non-consecutive term. It was a day full of emotion. Trump supporters cheered with pride. People danced in the streets. But while most attention was on the former president's comeback, something unexpected began to happen. Another face started to shine through the spotlight. Vice President J.D. Vance's wife Usha. J.D. Vance had already come a long way. From a small-town kid and best-selling author to U.S. Senator and now Vice President. His story was full of hard work and bold beliefs. He stood tall beside Trump, ready for the road ahead. But quietly and gracefully, Usha Vance stole the moment. She did not make big speeches. She did not seek attention. Yet people couldn't stop looking at her. There was something powerful in her calm, her smile, and the way she carried herself. She looked elegant but kind, strong yet gentle. She wore a simple outfit that lit up the crowd and reminded people that grace doesn't have to be loud. But Usha isn't just a beautiful face in the background. She's a brilliant woman, a Yale-educated lawyer who worked with top judges and built her impressive career. Before her husband ever stepped into politics, she's respected in the legal world for her brains, work ethic, and heart. On Inauguration Day, Usha wasn't just attending. She was helping behind the scenes. She worked with teams to make sure everything ran smoothly. Her friends from the campaign knew this wasn't new. Usha had always been a key part of JD's journey. She was his quiet rock, his trusted advisor, and his #1 supporter. Photos of her began to fill social media. People everywhere were talking about her peaceful strength and timeless style. They said she brought something refreshing to the political world, a soft kind of power that did not shout. In a place where people often argue loudly to be heard, Usha reminded everyone that leadership can also mean listening, calming the storm, and simply standing by the one you love. Together, J.D. and Usha Vance looked like the start of something new. He with his bold voice and connection to working-class families, she with her calm wisdom and quiet grace. They came from different worlds, yet found love and purpose side by side. Their partnership felt honest, strong, and full of promise. As the day went on, people began to wonder, what would Usha do next? Would she take on more public roles? Would she chase her dreams while helping JD lead the country? The sun set on a historic day. The parades ended, the music faded, and the flag stopped waving. But something special had just begun. While one president stepped back into power, another story gently began to rise. Usha Vance, she wasn't loud. She did not demand attention. But in her way, she became the heart of the moment. A reminder that behind every leader is someone who gives them strength. And sometimes that person ends up inspiring the world. Usha Vance showed us that real power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and the world listens. Vance might have stated that his wife is the first in his life. But how far will he go to prove it? And how much will he fight to make sure that the world knows she's his almost priority? Let's look into it. J.D. Vance's quiet strength. When J.D. Vance was chosen as Donald Trump's running mate, everything changed. The lights got brighter, the questions got tougher, and every move was watched. But it wasn't just J.D. under pressure. His wife Usha also stepped into the spotlight. And sadly, with the spotlight came hurtful words. Some people online said terrible things. They made racist comments about Usha. Because she's not white, they mocked her name. One person even asked why JD would marry someone named Usha, as if love needed permission. The remarks were cruel, unfair, and deeply wrong. But through it all, JD did not flinch, he did not argue or get angry. Instead, he showed something stronger: quiet love and respect. He did not need to defend his marriage with speeches. He simply made it clear his heart belongs to Usha, and no one else gets to question that. When reporters asked him about the hate, JD answered with calm honesty. He did not let the cruelty take over the story. He knew Usha wasn't someone who needed protecting. She was smart, kind, and strong enough to rise above the noise. And that's exactly what she did. Usha did not respond with outrage. She did not try to fight back online. She carried herself with grace. She stayed steady and calm, choosing to focus on her family and the future, not the voices trying to bring her down. JD did not just speak with love. He backed it up with action. In interviews, he spoke openly about Usha. He called her an amazing mother and partner. He shared how proud he was of the life they built together. His words weren't political. They were personal. You could tell he meant every word. Even when an old quote from JD's past caused a stir, something about politicians and parenthood, Usha stepped in not to defend, but to explain. She calmly said what JD truly meant: that family shapes a leader's heart. Her quiet explanation reminded people that the Vances don't just react. They think, they care, and they handle challenges together. As politics turned once again to topics like race and identity, JD faced more questions. Kamala Harris, a woman of color, was now the Democratic nominee. That made JD's family, his biracial children, and his Indian-American wife a symbol in this national conversation. But JD did not try to prove anything. He did not wave his family around as a political shield. Instead, he stayed true to who he was. He kept showing up as a husband, a father, and a man who deeply loves the people closest to him. In every moment of challenge, JD stayed grounded, not because he had to defend Usha, but because in his eyes, there was never anything to defend. To him, Usha wasn't a headline. She was his home, his equal, and the quiet strength behind his every step forward. In a world filled with noise, their love speaks softly, but it speaks volumes. It tells us that true partnership can shine, even under pressure. It reminds us that no matter how loud the hate may get, love that is real will always stand firm. Let's look at their formidable legacy. A quiet power behind the Vance partnership. JD Vance is now the Vice President of the United States. A big leap from being a best-selling author. Not too long ago, his rise has been fast, but it hasn't been rushed. Step by step, he connected with working-class Americans, spoke boldly about his beliefs, and found his way into the heart of Washington. Too many. JD is now a powerful voice for the future of the Republican Party. But behind the strong voice of a leader, there's often someone offering calm guidance and steady support. For JD, that person is his wife, Usha Vance. While JD gives speeches and appears on the news, Usha is working behind the scenes quietly, wisely, and with great care. She's more than a supportive wife. Usha is a brilliant lawyer who once worked with some of the top judges in the country. She knows the law, deeply understands government inside and out, and brings a level of insight that is rare in any field. When JD decided to run for office, Usha made a big choice. She stepped away from her fast-growing legal career to support their shared dream. It wasn't an easy decision, but it showed just how committed she is, not just to JD, but to the life and goals they built together. JD and Usha don't just look like a team. They are one. He listens to her, trusts her, and often turns to her when important choices need to be made. Their relationship is built on deep respect and love. You can feel it in the way he talks about her, and in how she stands by him, calm, strong, and steady. What makes Usha special isn't just her resume. It's her presence. She's not chasing the spotlight. She's not trying to win applause, But people notice her anyway, because she carries herself with grace, wisdom, and quiet power. People admire her not just for what she does, but for how she does it. Usha's story also shows how the face of the Republican Party is changing as an Indian-American woman with a powerful voice and deep values. She represents something new. She shows that conservative values can be lived out by people of all backgrounds, and that strength comes in many forms together. JD and Usha are more than just political figures. They are a family with their 3 children, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabelle. They're building a home full of love, learning, and purpose. Whether their kids go into public life or not, they are growing up in a house where ideas are shared, dreams are encouraged, and character comes first. This story isn't just about politics. It's about partnership. It's about a man and a woman who support each other fully, who dream together, work together, and lift each other up. Behind every speech, every decision, and every step forward, there's a quiet strength helping guide the way. That strength is Usha. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. And also click the next video shown on your screen.